Hey folks, it's Kevin-Dillon here with Kevin Duffy. We're here at Gillette Stadium. We were watching the first day of New England-Patriots minicamp. It was an interesting first day. It was a cold first day. Duffy forgot his coat, so he got really wet. It was just not a great situation for him. But overall, I mean, it was a fun practice to watch. There's a lot of interesting things to watch. I guess if you're thinking about what stood out to you, Kevin, what did you think it was?
Well, it was a sloppy practice, I would say, just because of the weather. It was like, for those of you who are watching outside of the Boston area, it was like in the 40s. It was cold and it was raining the whole time. So minicamp is essentially a passing camp in many ways. Those are the positions you can really judge the best are wide receiver, corner, quarterbacks, how they're throwing it, running backs, how they're catching it. A lot of drops. Some good plays defensively. I thought a few of the corners stood out to me. Jonathan Jones is going to be the guy that everyone talks about after today, the second-year corner out of Auburn, who was undrafted a year ago, largely a special teams player. But he was filling that role in 11-on-11s as the third corner with Malcolm Butler and Stephon Gilmore. I also thought Gilmore was pretty good, more so in the individual drills. I think Gilmore came to New England with a knack for ball skills. I mean, he's a ball hawk. Like, he has good instincts, and I think you can see that that reflects even in these practices without pads, without contact. You can just tell that he's got good instincts at the position. And the last thing I would say for a major takeaway for me, this is a good time to gauge the health of players and the athleticism that players possess. And to me, at age 31, Julian Edelman looked like the quickest guy on the field most of the time, and that's important because in past years, this time of the year, Edelman's been recovering from an off-season foot surgery or something like that. We haven't seen him look this way in June and in May, so I think it's an encouraging sign for Patriots fans that I thought he looked like himself. Totally.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Julian Edelman had a great day, and one thing I noticed is most of the Patriots were healthy. I mean, there was no Malcolm Mitchell, Dante Hightower was on the sideline, not doing much. Alan Branch was on the sideline. For the most part, though, everyone was healthy. We got a look at Brandon Cooks, who was flying down the field. I know Brady hit him for a couple of touchdown passes in 7-on-7s, and I saw him actually burn by Malcolm Butler at one point, but I mean, Brandon Cooks looks like he's a great addition to the offense.
Yeah, I think that again, you can gauge a play. We're up close. You're watching these guys from 20 feet away, 25 feet away. You can gauge how quickly they move, just how athletic some of the guys are, and that's what you're looking at with a lot of the new players. Brandon Cooks' speed jumps off the field when you're watching him. Clearly, he's one of the fastest receivers in the league. He's clearly the Patriots' fastest receiver, and he's probably as quick, in short spaces as Edelman is. So there's a lot of things that they might be able to do with Brandon Cooks, and even guys like Rex Burkhead. We've never seen Rex Burkhead and Gillislee play. Burkhead looks like he moves very well. Like he looks to have the kind of athleticism where you can put him out wide, you can put him in the slot, he can run routes from that position. We saw what he can do as a between the tackles runner in weeks 16 and 17 with Cincinnati. And Gillislee has actually been really not a part of – he wasn't really a major part of the practice today. So Dion Lewis, James White, and Burkhead were the running backs that worked primarily with Tom Brady and Jimmy Garoppolo. Gillislee worked more so with Jacoby Brissett. I think that's just an indication of what the mini-camp practices are like. As I said, these are passing camps. Essentially, the running backs who are going to be involved in the passing game are going to have a larger role in these practices because that's what they're practicing. They're practicing throwing the ball. They're not really it's not contact. There's no pads, so they're not really handing it off too much. So I think Gillislee, I would still bet on Gillislee to be the guy that leads the Patriots in carries, but he's probably going to be filling a role similar to LeGarrette Blount where he's not that much of a factor in the passing game. Guys like Burkhead, Lewis, and White, those guys are all going to play a role in the passing game.
Right, and now, as you just said, I mean, we saw a question right here about will he be able to replace Blount? I mean, it seems like he's going to have that Blount role. It doesn't seem like he's really that involved in the passing offense. I mean, we saw him catching some passes from Jacoby Brissett, but, I mean, the fact that he's working with Jacoby Brissett is an indicator of maybe where he is in terms of his passing game. I guess if you're looking around the roster, that maybe some of the more important players on the team, Tom Brady, Rob Gronkowski, both look good today. Gronk looks like he's healthy at this point.
Yeah, it's he's about 6 months removed from back surgery, so again, encouraging sign for the Patriots that he's able to participate in this. You know, it's non-contact, so you don't want to draw too much from it, but he looks like a pretty full participant. He certainly was in the May 25th OTA that we saw, so I think that this is, you know, when he goes into the back surgery, it's the third one he's had in his professional career, I believe. You never know with someone who's had so much like just physical repair to his body how he's going to be able to recover and be able to rehab. It looks like he is at least on schedule. You know, it's definitely encouraging for the Patriots to have him out there at this point.
Yeah, and then on the other tight end side, I mean, Dwayne Allen, he looked like he was a guy that maybe had a few drops today.
Yeah, Allen, I think I didn't chart the drops, but some people had him down for 3 in the team drills, and I definitely saw him drop a few on air against no defense at all. So not a great day for Dwayne Allen. I think watching him, he's a little stiff. He doesn't move quite as fluidly as you would have hoped. Doesn't move as fluidly as Martellus Bennett did, and Bennett is a bigger player at 6'6", 275. Allen doesn't quite weigh that much, so I don't know if Allen's going to be a huge factor in the passing game. He's a really accomplished blocking tight end, and he's a guy who they can probably use to reduce Rob Gronkowski's snaps, so Gronk isn't playing 95% of the snaps where, you know, on early downs, if you're going to run, in Gronk and Dwayne Allen, they might view them as comparable run blockers, so you can kind of alleviate Gronk's workload that way. So I don't know how he'll factor into the passing game. We'll have to see. I mean, this was one practice, but I just think eye test gauging the way he moves, not a fluid runner, and had some trouble holding on to the ball in the rain today.
Yeah, I mean, I guess in a world where the Patriots could have maybe a running package with Mike Gillislee, he'd maybe play a little bit more in those situations. But then, considering the Patriots' wide receiver depth, I mean, the Patriots could go 3 wide whenever, and they seem like they'd have no problem. So.
Yeah, I think that they're going to be playing a lot of those. I mean, you acquired Brandon Cooks, he's going to play a ton. Edelman's going to play a ton, and Chris Hogan and Malcolm Mitchell, I thought were both very good last year. Chris Hogan was second in the league to Deshaun Jackson with 17.9 yards per catch. And Mitchell, I think, surprised everybody as a rookie. So Mitchell was among the contingent that really weren't participating in the practice today. It was Mitchell, Dante Hightower, and Alan Branch were on the lower field. Really not, they did some conditioning down there. They didn't partake in the practice. So not sure if it's a physical thing with Mitchell. I did see him at Dante Hightower's charity event a week ago, and he was, you know, walking fine, nothing on. So it could be just a minor injury that they're bringing him along slowly with, and that could be the same case for Hightower, Hightower did not participate in the OTA that we saw on May 25th, and today he was here because it's mandatory, but he wasn't doing much.
For sure. And now just going toward maybe some of the undrafted guys, it's kind of tough to tell from minicamp here. I don't know if I have a question here, but I think it was the Hollister twins. But yeah, I guess, did any of the undrafted guys stand out to you today?
There's so many of them.
There's like 40 of them.
There's so many of them, and many of them are offensive linemen and defensive linemen, which, I mean, who the hell knows with those positions in minicamp here. The Hollister twins, I wouldn't say stood out. They were, again, I mean, the tight end, Jacob Hollister, was working with, and Cody too, for that matter, working mostly with Brissett in the third team players. So, I mean, honestly, I had my eyes mostly on what was going on with Tom Brady and Garoppolo and guys on the first team. So I don't have a great answer there, unfortunately. But I don't know if you saw. I can't think of any undrafted guys that stood out on top of my head. Perhaps you can.
Yeah, I mean, I was watching a little bit of the Brissett practice, and I think that section of the practice was moving a little bit more slowly than the veteran section. I know Brissett was taking like 10-second dropbacks at some points, you know, just to let guys go through their routes and everything. But at one point, I mean, he had a completion to Cody Hollister, he had a completion to to Carr, and then he had a touchdown pass to James O'Shaughnessy, all in succession there. So those are some guys that are maybe borderline roster guys that Brissett's working with now, and it's one practice. You see a lot of that right now is just them learning things, learning the system, learning what they're supposed to be doing on offense, and that's what they're able to do with Brissett. So you maybe can't tell as much from the one day of minicamp that you might be able to tell, which you can't really tell much with the veterans, but you can maybe see a little bit more with the veterans. So.
Yeah. I mean, they get more reps because those guys are gonna be part. I mean, you have probably. I did a roster projection, and I think I put it at 45 roster locks. So I'm a little high on that. Probably it's probably like 41, 42 guys right now who with almost certainty are going to be on the team. So that basically leaves like 9, maybe 10 spots open for competition between 50 guys. So a lot of the reps are going to the guys they know are going to play. So when you're coming in and you're undrafted, you have to make the most of a limited number of reps. So that's what we see here. I mean, I wasn't here a couple of years ago when Malcolm Butler first came onto the scene, but guys who covered the team talk about Malcolm Butler in minicamp and in the OTAs always stood out, and he always made a play. And they walked away from those OTAs and minicamp heading into training camp thinking, hey, that undrafted free agent Malcolm Butler, he might have a chance. So there's a lot of guys who I think can make an impression over the next 2 days and can give the coaches something to think about as they head into training camp this summer.
I will wrap things up with a couple last things. I was going to ask any standout plays from today, the ones that really stood out in your mind.
Yeah, I have a few. Julian Edelman made a really nice catch on what I thought was a kind of a poorly thrown ball by Tom Brady. It really floated up there and hung in the air for a long time. And Edelman really leaped over Malcolm Butler to make the catch. I don't know if it was in 7-on-7s or 11-on-11s. That play stood out. Gilmore had a breakup. It was Jonathan Jones who had a breakup on a deep ball to Brandon Cooks. And he was with Cooks stride for stride, which is impressive. And Jonathan Jones, for you guys who don't know, he ran a 4.3340 at the 2016 Combine. So Jonathan Jones is probably just as fast as Brandon Cooks.
He
can fly, too. Those might be the two fastest guys on the team. So that was pretty cool because you had Cooks running down the sideline, Jones running stride for stride with him, and then Jones was able to make the play on the ball in the air before Cooks could. So that play stood out. The Edelman catch stood out. And Gilmore made one in just individual drills with Chris Hogan, where again it was basically Gilmore versus Hogan in open space, and the receiver usually has the advantage in those positions because it's a one-on-one drill. There's no help defense anywhere. Gilmore stuck with Hogan. I think he was with him when Hogan broke his route off, and he either undercut or met him at the point of the ball and deflected the pass away. So yeah, I mean it was really those three plays, I would think. Anything from you?
Yeah, I mean, I thought that there was one play with Brandon Cooks just really, he burned Butler with his speed, and it was one of those drills where it's one-on-one coverage, there's no safety help, and you're going to need safety help against a guy like Brandon Cooks, but he got by him and caught the ball, and he had the whole field in front of him, so that was really impressive to me. Just a couple of nice catches on the sideline. I believe Chris Hogan had one of them, and overall, I mean, the offense was going to look good if they're on the 7-on-7s, but the defense I thought was really the biggest standout of the day. I mean, it's rainy and maybe that helps them out a little bit, but they did a great job of defending Brady and Garoppolo, and it's exciting considering all the acquisitions. Like the Patriots secondary is going to be very good this year.
Yeah, I'll add one more I thought of. DJ Foster made a nice over-the-shoulder catch in the corner of the end zone on a pretty deep ball from Jacoby Brissett, which I believe was in 7-on-7s. So Foster, talked with him briefly after practice. He said he was open to, if you guys remember, he did practice a little bit toward the end of the season with the wide receivers. And at Arizona State, he was kind of a hybrid receiver running back. They used him at both positions. So he said he was open to continuing to work with receivers and to learn the position and to do whatever would give him the best chance to make the Patriots roster. It is going to be tough for him to make it as a running back. We've talked about that position group: Gillisley, Dion Lewis, James White, Rex Burkhead. Those guys are all locks. So maybe you're looking at one other spot. And they like Brandon Bolden on special teams, and You got the undrafted rookie, LaShawn Daniels, who's a big body, 225, 230, gives them something they don't have. So that position, there's intense competition there. And DJ Foster might be best served to be able to play multiple roles. And I think as camp progresses and we get into training camp, we'll see more how the Patriots plan on utilizing him.
For sure. And just some questions from the readers. We already talked a little bit about Cooks. It seemed like he had a great day. What about Hawkins? And you can't really tell much from Coney Ely in minicamp. It's one of those situations where they're not really 100% rushing the passer. They're making some sort of push, but that'll probably pick up more in training camp. But it's tough to really tell anything here. But what about Hawkins?
Don't have much on Ely. Hawkins wasn't, I don't think, too involved. He wasn't very targeted. In the team drills, in the individual drills they were doing, though, he did jump out to me again when you're just watching guys and you're seeing just the kind of athleticism and quickness they possess. He jumped out at me, and I was like, "Whoa, is that Brandon Cooks or is it Hawkins? He can move. He's pretty quick inside there, so he fits as a slot receiver who would compete with Danny Amendola for probably the 5th spot on the depth chart." And I was pretty impressed by just the agility and athleticism that he possesses.
Yeah, I actually thought Danny Amendola stood out pretty well today too, and I think it's going to be a tough job to beat out Danny Amendola for a spot, just considering his familiarity. Unless they don't want to pay his contract, but they already had the pay cut.
A lot of that is guaranteed money too, so I agree with you. Amendola's probably going to be the 5th receiver in all likelihood. One of those guys would have to be significantly better than him. When I say one of those guys, I mean Hawkins and Austin Carr, the undrafted rookie out of Northwestern. So it's probably Amendola's job, but Hawkins, he's got the kind of physical traits that the Patriots like for a player that's going to play in the slot.
For sure. All right, I think that'll wrap it up here. Thanks to everyone for watching. We'll be back with you probably tomorrow at minicamp, and we'll provide more observations then. So thanks for watching, guys.
And hopefully it won't be so damn cold.